Today I'm talking to Agnis Driksna, chairman of the board of Rail Baltica. We will discuss the impact of this new railway on the economy of the Baltic states and what it takes to build such a complex project between the three countries. I looked at some of the statistics about passenger travel choices, and I was like, I was surprised that the number of railway passengers and the railway usage is growing, but I'm surprised how much. It's like 50% growth, right? And globally the number of carriages should double until 2025 or 2030 or something.
Indeed.
And then how does it reflect on Rail Baltic's plans? Are you guys going to compete with Air Baltic, I guess, right?
No, let's take one by one.
Okay.
So first of all, railways indeed is experiencing this renaissance. Yeah, because if you compare to the different modes of transport, railway is still the greenest. It is the fastest in urban environment. Yeah. And actually it also the price what the railway is costing, especially for the local traffic, is still comparable to different transport modes, whether it's taxi or bus or everything else. So it's obviously that in urban environment, railways is something that you're looking for. Also, if you look also about the quality of the service, let's take a kind of longer distances between Riga, for example, and Tallinn. Right now you can go from Riga to Tallinn either by bus, which would take something like 4.5 hours, or you can fly. The flight itself is short, but while you get to the airport, register, check in, wait for a plane, after all, it's still 3 hours. With Rail Baltica, we would be able to achieve travel distance less than 2 hours, 1 hour and 50 minutes.
15 or 50?
50.
50, okay.
So it means that the dynamic of the region will change completely. Imagine that you can actually go to the train at 7 o'clock in the morning. At 9, you can be also in Tallinn or in Viļņu from Riga. Then you can do the business or whatever it is, get on the train at 5 o'clock in the evening and at 7 be at home. So we are, in that sense, we are not speaking anymore about 3 divided small markets. We are looking at the Baltic region as a one, from economical point of view, from the safety point of view, security, and also from the passenger mobility and this cultural element. Just examples in Baltics as well. You said that actually passenger this is increasing on the railway. It's absolutely true. If you look in Estonia, in the last decade, they bought a new rolling stock, and there actually this passenger flow increased almost double. And they are right now even considering to buy more because there is a huge demand about internal travel within the country. And this actually will be also true about Rail Baltica, because we are building infrastructure, and it's not about the railway itself. It's about mobility within the region. Now let's take a look at Latvia. You will have a railway traffic from, for example, from Riga Central Station to airport. Right now we can use the bus, but then you will be with a comfortable shuttle. You would be able to get from Riga Airport to Riga Center. This is one. Then you will have also regional traffic, so-called loop around the Riga. So it includes also Jānma, Rupe and Salas, Pils, etc. So it's loop. Then you will go outside of the Riga to the north and to the south. These are 2 parts of the country where you have never had a railway. It means railway connection with Bauska and railway connection with the Salaspils. And then you go beyond the territory of one country, and it means that the same line, without any stopping at the border, will cross also into Lithuania and into Estonia. And it means that passenger would be able to work, for example, in Salaspils and go to work to Pärnu. Or, for example, live in Panevėžys and go to work to Riga. So it brings absolutely new dynamic to the region with this Rail Baltica.
So you've built some expectation there, right?
I mean, obviously, it's not only my expectation. I would say it's expectation from the 3 Baltic countries, from the business and from the people. And it's not only about within the countries. It's also true about kind of connecting with Europe. Again, from Riga, how can you get to Germany or to Berlin, for example? Either you take a flight or you drive.
And how long would be the ride to Berlin?
Around 6 hours or so.
6 hours, yeah.
So it means actually
overnight.
Exactly. So there we will have a regional trains between the Baltic countries, and those high-speed international trains, so that you can go from Tallinn through Riga and then connect to the Berlin and then beyond in the rest of the Europe.
Maybe you can remind what are kind of the main milestone days, because obviously building a railway, takes quite a time, right?
Oh yeah, it's quite a challenging process, especially we are building in the 3 Baltic countries, absolutely new railway system, because we know that there is this Russian gauge, which is a 1520, and now we are going back to this European gauge, so to be interlinked in a one common railway network. And it means that currently, if you look from the project pipeline, so right now we have completed the planning. We are right now in a design phase, where we are finalizing this design in Latvia and in Estonia. Then we already have started some construction works, and people in all 3 countries are able to see it. The most obvious, of course, is in Riga. So you can see that in the Riga Central Station, there is already huge construction works. We have completed the demolishing works of one side of the railway, and we are starting to building up the estates and everything else. So you actually can see it when you pass through Riga. And the second object also in Latvia, for example, is the one at International Airport. So it means when you arrive in Riga, just in front of the airport, you can already see the construction works.
And when will we see the first, and how is it going to be? The whole thing will be ready together, or it will be ready by parts?
This is actually a good question, because sometimes people like to ask which country is first, which is more progressed and everything else. But here is the trick, that this is not a competition who is the first. It's actually common work in order to be ready at the same time. Because if some sections are ready in Latvia and there is nothing ready in Estonia or other ways around, you simply don't have this corridor kind of functionality. But of course, you cannot commission 870 kilometers, which is the length of Rail Baltic in all 3 countries, at one day. So we will start kind of commissioning railway starting from 2027, when we will start to test actually the first sections, for example, between Kaunas and Riga International Airport. So that would be the logical one of the first sections, but you can start to test. The same in Estonia, for example, between Tallinn and Pärnu. That would already start in 2028 with an aim that the full corridor is functional by 2030.
The full Rail Baltic?
Yes, the full corridors. Basically from Tallinn to Warsaw and to the Berlin, you would be able to go by 2030, but the first sections would be already tested and put into operations a little bit sooner.
And then once we have Rail Baltica, and then it is connected to the European rail network, this means that European railway companies, they could consider operating in the Baltics. Is it possible? Is it being discussed?
It's about operations, because from one side we are building the railway, but as I said, railway is not really its aim. Its aim is actually to ensure the service. And then this is an open line, so it means that, for example, for the high-speed passengers and for high-speed operations, then also European companies would be able to come and operate on this line. At the same time, it is clear that in order to get the trains running in 2030, we need to start act today. So basically, either the states or operators needs to start to plan how to procure the trains and manufacture them in order to get ready by 30, because it takes time. It takes time to make specifications, make a procurement, manufacture the train, test the train, and then bring it to the region. So this is a good question, and we really need to start working on that one already 2023.
Well, I mean, as we discussed, we are trying to look at Baltic and Nordic as one region, right? And then from that perspective, do we need like 3 railway companies in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, or is it more economical, more productive to operate just one company?
Well, again, Baltic region takes from the point of view of Europe or maybe even the world, they usually treat Baltic as a one. As a one region, one culture.
It's not that big,
this is kind of how it seems. But when you go into the details, you can see that 3 Baltic countries are very different. They are different from the mentality, from the legislation. They are different how the systems are organized. So I would say that today, actually, to make too much of the joint enterprises, whether it's for the railways, for the airlines or whatever, it will be a challenge. It will still need some time. So right now, what we are focusing on is to ensure that we have the seamless travel for passengers and goods. So it means irrespectively how many infrastructure managers we have, it's kind of 1 or 3, we need to ensure that we act as a one entity towards the client. So irrespectively in which country the cargo comes to the railways, they pay kind of one-time fee and they understand how we are moving without any barriers. It's the same about the passengers. Yeah. So this is really critical to ensure that part, that there are common principles how you set the tariffs, that there are common maintenance principles, everything else. And that, of course, you know, from economical point of view, if every country will buy exactly the same technologies, you know, it would be simply a waste of money. So we need to cooperate and understand from how all 870 kilometers are running, not only 250 kilometers in Latvia.
I mean, yeah, this is the same logic as, you know, NATO recently calculated that just on procurement of, you know, military equipment in every country separately, there is, you know, huge amount of money is being lost because it is not, you know, optimal.
Exactly.
Right?
This is the same what we are doing, for example, for the materials. We are going for the procurements of scale. Yeah. If for each construction section, we would go and procure elements differently, whether it's ballast, whether it's sleepers, whether it's trucks.
Yes.
You know, this is kind of for a small section, 10 to 50 kilometers. But if you buy for 870 kilometers, then it's actually a completely different bargaining power, because everybody needs it, and it's better to do it jointly than actually leave it for each company separately.
This is why I wanted to meet you, right? Because, I mean, you had to get, you know, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania to cooperate. And I guess, you know, you're using some Estonian companies in Estonia, Latvian companies in Latvia, or maybe you use Latvian companies in Estonia. How does it work? How does Rail Baltica work? Right.
Look, first of all, what everybody needs to understand is that railways in each country, when this is completed, it's going to belong to each state. There is no question about that. In the territory of the state, railways is owned by the state. This is full stop. Then, in order to deliver the railway, we have set up, I would say, quite interesting system that ministries are the beneficiaries of the project, and they are, in a sense, kind of key owners of the project. Then we have a joint venture, RB Rail, who is responsible for coordinating all three countries, this construction and the program perspective, when we do what, also sets this basic standards and principles, whether it's procurements, whether it's technical, so that we are building the same one railway. And then also as each country, there is national implementing bodies, which are 100% owned by the state, who are doing the local kind of task and local construction parts. For example, these national implementing bodies are responsible for the construction of point-type objects. It means Rīgu Central Station, for example, depot, maintenance facilities. And they are also responsible for the civil works. Because if you look railways, then there is part of the civil works, which is embankment. Then you put the tracks, then you put the signaling, and then you put electrification. And at the end of the day, you commission this as a system, as a railway system. So therefore, from this joint perspective, it's important that there is somebody who can commission full line, 870 kilometers. And for that, you need, as I said, those common standards, principles, and safety, plus put electrification and signaling, and then to put into operations. When it's into operations, then you will give this to the infrastructure managers to manage this, this infrastructure.
And would Rail Baltica also then run, you know, tendering to ensure that there are trains rolling? You know, who will ensure that there is, like, you know, a joint system of trains working?
About the trains, actually, this is still the decision is on a state's level. So currently, we don't have any joint procurements for the trains between the three Baltic countries, or not even for the PSOs. So this is something that states will need to agree how to do it properly. But it is clear, if you look from this kind of economical perspective, that it makes sense, even if the train would be owned by each state. It is still kind of most likely the case, but that you procure them together, with one technical specifications, so that we don't have three different set of trains. That
well,
we
that's
have
what I'm trying
train.
to understand, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the point for Rail Baltica is to avoid what we currently have on the railway, three completely different railway management systems and approach, even though you could actually cross the border with the segment. There is a lot of administrative burdens. With Rail Baltica, we need to avoid that one, so we have learned our lessons, and we need to make a common line, single project that you can operate without any borders.
Because, I mean, in preparation to the interview, I was kind of comparing, you know, railways to the postal services. Because it's kind of similar, it's also logistics, and then postal services, they also have very strong influence of the state. And then it is kind of pretty evident from, at least, you know, my experience, that, you know, during COVID, you know, lots of private companies, they have kind of marched in And for state postal services, it was a little bit difficult to catch up, right? And this is what I'm trying to understand, how, what is the thinking in shaping this new, it should be government, maybe not imposed, but government influence type of a service, right? But on the other side, there are also private companies, there are much bigger companies who have, much more, resources and management, experience in operating, railways.
True, because kind of state's business is not to operate the railway. Yeah, state needs to provide an infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah, and then to get also operator who is
Operators.
operating the railway. Yes. Yeah, operators. That's the same. Because state provides the infrastructure, then they attract operator who ensures the service on the infrastructure according to the state's needs. Yeah, for example, the same railway. We speak quite a lot that railway is a backbone. Yeah, it means that also the state politics need to correspond to that one. But we don't need to kind of have the bus going from every single village to Riga. So for the railway stations, there are catchment areas as well, similar as for the airports. Yeah. So it means that you can make those regional stations as a multimodal transport hubs, and then you catch this catchment area, 10, 15, 20 kilometers, when people come to the railway, and then go either to the capital, any of the capital, Riga, Viļņu, or Tallinn, or even beyond. So this is also the philosophy of the railway. States provide the means, operator ensure that what state is planned is actually being delivered.
I mean, a railway is a pretty complex thing. There are the rails, there are the stations, and then there is what is signaling, right? So what I also found out in preparation is that, for example, Swiss Rail, they own a lot of stations, obviously, and then the usage of the stations has changed, so they don't need that much space from technological point of view. So they've started, renting out that space as co-working space. Which also ensures a possibility for people to come to one place, do some work. Is it a topic in our design, in Rail Baltic design?
What you are saying, it actually has changed already quite some time ago.
Okay.
Yeah? So this is kind of the principle that stations is no longer kind of the station where you go only to the train.
Yeah.
You can look at actually at any big station, even kind of, for example, in Riga. It's right now much more, the station is only
multifunctional,
part.
Yes.
It's multifunctional, exactly. And right now with this reconstruction of the station, it will become even more multifunctional because it will interlink basically all modes of transport what we have, no? If you look like that. We will have a Rail Baltica trains, we will have current existing 15-20 trains that meet at the same station. You will have also the bus station right next to the current, the train station. You will have also possibilities for different kiss and rides, park and ride opportunities. And then you develop further for what do you need for the passengers. Yeah? Then all the ticketing and everything, all the places where you can actually wait for the train, all the businesses as well. The corridor center is there, kind of, and also you can do the shopping. So right now, if you look in Europe, all the big stations are going towards this trend. And station is no longer simply to get on the train and wait for the train, but station is actually the city within the city itself. Yeah, also similar kind of to the airport philosophy. They're also kind of developing not only kind of this direct service, yeah, but you have also the business hubs, you have logistics and everything else. So this is important also in Rail Baltica. And when we are looking in the stations in the three capitals, we are not looking only as the development of the station, but also development of surroundings, so-called last mile. How do you get actually to those stations? Whether this is actually what else you can develop around, the station. To become also in Riga, you can see that there are several office buildings which are building right now. In Viļņu, there is a separate even project around this Rail Baltica and the central station, Viļņu Connect, which will also redevelop the region around it. So this is becoming really the trend, and it actually will show that how actually this mobility in our decade is looking like, what we are looking in the mobility itself.
And what about digitization and the ticketing system? Because of course, every vendor can sell their own tickets, but on the other side, from what I can see, the real value for the consumer is that if you can buy a combined ticket, a train ticket plus, rent a car plus something else, anything around
digitally, it's all possible. So the question is of course, for those operators to want to do that.
Okay.
And I will give you an example. For Rail Baltica, we are right now thinking intensively also, for example, this air to rail. Yeah, it means
air to rail. Yeah.
Yes, and rail to air. So in essence, you could go to the train station and you could check already the luggage in. Yeah. And then actually luggage goes to your final destination and you get on the train, go to for example, to the airport and then travel to your final destination. So all of these kind of principles can be applied. And just an example from Riga Central Station, for example, even if you have two different railway systems, for the passenger, it should not matter. The quality of the service should be the same. Whether you buy the ticket from Riga to Tallinn or you buy ticket from Riga to Daugavpils, the quality of the service should be provided at the same level. That's why this is kind of the joint station between the different modes of transport.
And you mentioned the signaling system. Any connection between the modern ways railways are built and 5G? What is the level of possible robotization? Because this will be finished in like 2030, so it's like a lot of time, and by that time, we might have self-driving cars, right?
Yeah, this is interesting choice what we have, because right now in the railways, we are changing the systems. We are right now moving to 5G.
Okay.
So in essence, for Rail Baltica, there is this philosophical choice. You can be either last one on the previous system or the first one on the new system. Yeah. So it means that actually this is a choice for the states and everybody else. And currently, if you look from this development, and as you said, that line will be completed by 30, it makes sense to be the first on the new system, also considering that Rail Baltica is a greenfield project. Yeah, so it means that you can adopt it more easily. You don't need to kind of interlink it with the rest of the systems. Yeah, so obviously this is a choice towards which one we should go. You said about fully optimized trains. For Rail Baltica, it's not the case because these optimized trains you can have on a short distances, and then there is no risks from different kind of sites. But in Rail Baltica, we will be having regional traffic, as I said, high-speed traffic between the states, cargo traffic. And for that, you need to manage that. And you cannot put everything automized in the different ways. Even if you could automate the shuttle, for example, from Central Station to Riga International Airport, at the same time, there will go also the regional trains, night trains, etc., etc. So the traffic is too intense to go fully automatized.
So is it going to be one track per direction or several? Two.
It's a double track. It's a double track, fully kind of electrified.
For every direction, or?
Yes, it's a double track. For every direction. It's a double track, so two tracks parallel.
Okay, so in one direction and another direction. Yes. Okay. And then what is the situation around, you mentioned also cargo and logistics. I guess it will be also an important piece of the value that this brings. So is something being built around the railway to increase its capabilities to serve as a cargo stream?
Yeah, because cargo is definitely kind of big part of the Rail Baltica project. So because if you look at these cargo flows, so we are in a sense also strengthening and opening the new corridor, because currently you had a cargo east-west, especially if you look from the railway, and right now we actually will have a railway connection for cargo starting from the Muuga port. It means also all the Scandinavian cargo could actually land in Estonia, right in a port, and then continue to the Europe through Baltic countries. Plus, in each country, we are developing also the main logistic hubs. In Estonia, it's in Muuga, in Latvia, it's in Salaspils, and in Estonia and Lithuania, it's in Kaunas. So those are the main ones where you can have all those intermodal kind of shifts between different cargo modes. For example, kind of in this Salaspils, you can have rail to rail, rail to road, and also not only the logistics itself, that you kind of transfer this cargo from one transport mode to another, but you build also around this global village, including different kind of manufacturing plants, different elements of the businesses. And then, actually, this is kind of the three main ones, but if you build a railway, you need to also identify what kind of cargo and where are these origin part. Yeah, for example, if you have somebody who is producing lumber and it's big enough which could serve several trains per week or even per day, it's obvious that it makes sense to make a connection to such a manufacturer. And also other manufacturers who see that there is, for example, possibility for this manufacturing place, they also can build those manufacturing places next to these big logistic hubs, so that you don't need to transport this last mile from the manufacturing plant to the railways. They are right next to it. But of course, it's not kind of open bars that you can kind of connect every single place. Yeah, it's also about this roads. It's the same. You cannot have hundreds and hundreds of connections. They need to be well thought through in order to ensure that operations of the railway are not at risk or not jeopardized.
So I mean, maybe we can talk about your team, right? Because it is probably an international team, and it's probably a team where you have representatives of all 3 Baltic states, right? So how did this team form? How did you kind of learn to work together? What did you learn about, each other in the process?
This is actually interesting because Rail Baltica is truly European project.
Okay.
Because it's not only about 3 Baltic countries who are working together. Yeah, it's also about at least 20 European countries and different nationalities which comes here. And sometimes it is a question that you all speak English, you kind of agree because you use the same terminology, but in each mind this terminology means something a little bit different. Yeah? So you get used to that one. So it means also the standardization and common understanding is very important. So you set the correct aim and goal, what you want to achieve. You set up the principles and terminology by what you work, and then you actually trust your team to deliver. This is very kind of simple. But yeah, the people are different, and this is no doubt about that one. And each nationality has their own kind of jokes and attitude and everything else. But the good thing with the Rail Baltica project is that you have a common aim. And if you have a common aim, then actually people learn to work together to deliver it.
Yeah, I can really sense it in what you're saying. How big is the team?
So right now, kind of RB Rail is around 200 people itself as a company. But if you look all the project together, so we are kind of looking also at the implementing bodies and the ministries, and then also at our consultants, construction companies, designers, etc., etc. So it's hundreds and hundreds already. And it will grow, because right now we are only at the start of the construction, and it's still in design phase.
You're still
so
designing.
in 2024 we will be already in a large-scale constructions, and during the construction phase it will be something between 10 and 25,000 people working on Rail Baltica at the different kind of levels and different capacities.
And would these be mostly local companies, or in reality these are again international companies building the railway?
It's both. Actually, you cannot do it either only with a local or only with international. So this mix actually is mandatory. For example, kind of local companies don't know experience in a high-speed railway designs. They simply don't. And the same with those companies who has this experience across the world, they don't have an experience with the local design particularities, whether it's roads, whether it's utilities, and you need to have this local partner. And it's also the same about the construction. So basically there will always be a joint ventures between international and local ones in order to ensure this kind of full spectrum of the knowledge and resources what you need. And it's not only about the construction, it's all the logistics and everything else what comes in. Because the biggest challenge actually is not about constructing the embankment or the 2 rails, but to ensure that you have materials, you have logistic chains, and this will take all technologies kind of working together at the same synchronized time schedule. And this indeed is a challenge to kind of organize that properly.
Thank you. We're really waiting for the railway in 2030. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for inviting.